Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qala Allahu tabarak wa ta'ala fil Qur'anil Majid wal Furqanil Hamid, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna nahnu nazzalna adh-dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. My dear respected brothers, elders and sisters, the conditions the Muslims are going through today, they are not new for the Muslims. If we go deep down into history and study the halat, the conditions of the Muslims, Muslims have always been oppressed. We have never been the oppressors. This is our history. We have always been mazloom. We have never been the zalim. But in this time, Allah Rabbul Izzat, He has given us a source and provisions for salvation. It is not that Allah Rabbul Izzat has left us alone. Even when Muslims were being oppressed and when they were madhloom, it is not that they did not have the power to take revenge. It is in the nature of Islam to endure, to tolerate, to bear the halat, the conditions that befall on us. If we go back in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, study the life of the Prophet and his companions. For 13 years the Sahaba were oppressed and they were madhloom. But regardless of this, they were experiencing solace and peace. Now, where were they getting that solace and that peace? They were getting that solace and peace from the heavens. Abdullah ibn Masud radiyallahu an, before his conversion to Islam, the Muslims, they did not have the courage to read the Quran aloud in Makkah. So one day the Sahaba, they were gathered and they were having a conversation, and the conversation was, who has got the courage amongst us? Who is courageous amongst us? Who can take that stand where he can go to the Haram or Makkah and read the Quran aloud? So Abdullah ibn Masud radiyallahu ta'ala, he put his hand up. He said, Inshallah, I will read the Quran aloud tomorrow. Give me the opportunity. When they saw Abdullah ibn Masud raise his hand, they were a bit hesitant and reluctant to send Abdullah ibn Masud. And they were scared for his life. They said, we are expecting a person who has got somebody to stand up for him. If he gets beaten or if he gets opposed, his tribe can come and save him. You have nobody. So they were a bit reluctant to send him. He said, don't worry, send me. Inshallah, Allah Rabbul Izzat will take care of me. So the following day, in the heat of the afternoon, he went. And he passed the disbelievers in the Haram, and he went to Maqam Ibrahim, and he started to read the Quran. As he started to read the Quran, the disbelievers, their attention transferred from their own assembly to Abdullah ibn Masud, and they said, what is Ibn Abid reading? This was his kunyat. what is Ibn Abid reading? So when they started to hear he was reading the Quran, when they saw that this person had got so much courage, he just passed us and he's reading the Quran in front of us, they got up. They pounced on him and they start beating him up. And they severely wounded him. So when he returns, it was no surprise to the Sahaba. His whole body was injured. His whole face was injured. So when the Sahaba saw him, they were a bit shocked. But at that time, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala, he said, don't be intimidated or frightened. I have never seen the disbelievers so weak. I have never seen the disbelievers more weak than today. If you want, I can go tomorrow and read the Quran again. وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحٌ مِّنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّنَا. The reason being is that the Quran is the ruh of the body. When a person is reading the Quran, he is engulfed in the nur of Allah Rabbul Izzat. He does not experience any external element. Even if he is being oppressed, he will not experience. That's why Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, I have never seen the disbelievers more weak. Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an, it is reported, Akbar, he passed a group of people in the Masjid that were engaged in useless speech, and they were arguing about some matters. My dear respected brothers, the means of salvation for Muslims, it is nothing but the Quran. Remember, if we try to find salvation anywhere else, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala has mentioned the results, has told us the results. This is what is happening today. Imam Malik rahimahumullah used to say, La yuslihu akhiru hazihi al-umma illa bima saluha awwaluha. That the rectification and the reformation of this ummah, it is in those ingredients and in those provisions which uplifted the people of the first generation. And what lifted the people of the first generation? It was nothing but the Quran. And today, how sad is this when we read any book? How sad when we read any book of this dunya, any article, any newspaper, we empty our head and then we read. But when we are reading the Quran, our head is not empty, our mind is not empty. There are so many thoughts in our mind and we are reading the Quran. When we cannot understand a work of this dunya, if the mind is not empty and we are reading, how will we understand the Quran when our minds are occupied with something? When we can't understand, if you read the newspaper and your mind is occupied, yes, you will be reading the words, you won't understand anything. So what do? We free our mind. But when it comes to the Quran, alhamdulillah, our minds are occupied and we are reading. How will we benefit? We can never benefit from the Quran. So Akbar, he comes back to Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu an, and Sayyidina Ali, the Prophet said regarding him, Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha, that I am the city of knowledge and Sayyidina Ali is the door to this city of knowledge. You have to knock on the door of Sayyidina Ali to gain any knowledge. So he comes back to Sayyidina Ali and he mentions this to Sayyidina Ali, that I passed a group of people in the masjid that were arguing about some stuff. Sayyidina Ali said, if whatever you are saying, is it correct? Are you speaking the truth? Whatever you are saying, is it the truth? Akbar said, yes, it is the truth. Then Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala said, listen carefully then. Wallah, deep down in this heart, we do not believe the Quran is a source of our salvation. We do not believe. We try everything, but we don't try the Quran. We practice everything, but we don't practice the Quran. We understand everything, but we don't understand the Quran. We have the zeal, enthusiasm to study everything, but we have no zeal and enthusiasm to study the Quran. Remember, on the Day of Judgment, every Muslim is accountable in front of Allah Rabbul Izzat. Allah will pose this question, how much of this Quran Not did you read. How much of this Quran did you understand? And after understand, how much did you practice? And after practice, how much did you propagate? Every Muslim will be asked. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala, he reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, all prophets, they were given miracles according to their time. All prophets were given miracles to their time. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was given 2 miracles. The asa, the staff, and yad bayza, and his glowing hand. Sayyidina Isa was given 4 miracles Allah mentions in the Quran. What were the miracles at that time? The people, they were interested, and the miracles prophets are given are those miracles which at that time the people are interested in and are trying to outclass other people. In the time of Musa, it was magic. In the time of Isa, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, it was medicine. So Allah Rabbul Izzat gave, so in the time of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wassalam was the biggest doctor. There was no bigger doctor than Sayyidina Isa. He could cure the lepers, cure the blind, he could resurrect the dead, and at the same time, he could make birds of clay and put souls in them and put life in them. But the Prophet ﷺ said, all Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, because their prophethood was limited, the period of their prophethood was limited, their miracles are limited as well. They no longer exist. But the Prophet of Allah said, I am the final prophet and I have been given the biggest mu'jizah, the biggest miracle, and it will live until the day of judgment. It is the Quran. Have we ever asked ourselves this question, how the hell is the Quran a miracle? How is it a miracle? How is the Quran a miracle? It is only a miracle if you understand. It is not a miracle if you don't understand the book. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I hope on the day of judgment, my followers are more than all the followers of the prophets. My followers are more. How is the Quran a miracle? When we can't read the Quran properly, we can't understand the Quran, we don't practice the Quran, we don't promote the Quran, how is it a miracle? For us, the Quran is not a miracle. That's why this is our condition. This is why this is our state today. We do not acknowledge the Quran to be a miracle of Allah. The Prophet said all the miracles of the past, the miracles of all the prophets, they exited this dunya, they left this dunya with the Prophet. But my miracle will remain until the day of judgment. Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala, when this Haris Akbar returned to Sayyidina Ali and told Sayyidina Ali of this, Sayyidina Ali said, alright, listen carefully. I have heard from the Prophet of Allah. The Prophet of Allah said, be warned. A time will come. What do we do when corruption will prevail? What will we do when evil will become prevalent? What will we do when people will go astray? The Prophet ﷺ said, be warned. A time will come when corruption will prevail. So Sayyidina Ali said, at that time, what should we do, O Prophet of Allah? The Prophet of Allah said the same thing Allah said to Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam. Ya Yahya huzil qitab biquwwa. Hold the book firm. It doesn't mean hold the book in your hands like this. It means practice the Quran. Practice the Quran. There's no other way of holding the book firm but practicing. How many of us are practicing the Quran? And then Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala, he described the quality of the Quran. Because he was Babul, what was he? Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Babuha, because he was the door of the city of knowledge. He described what the Quran was. He said the Quran speaks, mentions the incidents of the past. It mentions prophecies of the future. And it is a judge in your matters. How many times has there been ma'amalat, dealings in our life, where we have presented the Quran as a judge? We never present the Quran as a judge. The first person we go to is knock on the door of the makhluk. We don't use the Quran as a judge. Then Sayyidina Ali said, The Quran is a reality. It is not a fiction. It is a reality, it is not a fiction. And then Sayyidina Ali said, those believers that rebel against the Quran will break their back. The Quran will break their back. Today the Quran has broken the back of the Ummah. Sayyidina Usman used to say, this Quran is a means of elevation, and at the same time it's a means of demoting nations. It says at the same time it's a means of demoting nations. Nafi bin Abdul Haris radiyallahu an, when he heard Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala is coming to Medina, to Makkatul Mukarramah to perform Hajj, he went out to welcome Sayyidina Umar. When he received Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu an, Sayyidina Umar asked, who have you appointed the governor of Makkah in your absence? He said, I have appointed Abdurrahman ibn Abi Abza radiyallahu an. Sayyidina Umar was shocked. He said, how have you made a person of a slave progeny a leader of the Quraysh? What was your criteria? What was your merit? How have you made a slave Amir of governor in your absence over the Quraysh? He said, I found no one more knowledgeable in the Quran than Abdurrahman ibn Abza than myself. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala said, then your decision is correct. He goes, this Quran is a means of elevating nations, and it's a means of demoting nations. This Quran has promoted Abdurrahman ibn Azba to this station. Don't we believe the Quran can save us? Don't we believe the Quran can salvage us from this condition today? No, we don't believe. If we believe, we would love the Quran, we would die for the Quran, we would understand the Quran, we would practice the Quran. Today there's no practice, there's no understanding, there's no reading. Nothing. What ta'alluq do we have with the Quran? What relation do we have with the Quran? Sayyidina Usman radiyallahu ta'ala said, if your hearts were not sick, you would never be full with the Quran. You could never quench your thirst from the Quran if your hearts were not sick. It is a sign our hearts are sick. That's why our thirst is quenched. How many of us have completed 2, 3, 4 Qurans in the month of Ramadan? Sayyidina Imam Shafi, once he was traveling to Makkatul Mukarramah, it took him 16 days. He read 16 Qurans on his way. How many Qurans have we read? How many Qurans have we understood? Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala said, this Quran, if you rebel against the Quran, and he's addressing the Muslims, not the non-Muslims. He was speaking about the Muslims, not the non-Muslims. He said, if the Muslims rebel against the Quran will break their back. And if the Muslims find any other source of salvation and hadayat and guidance, they will go astray. They will go astray. Today the Muslims are astray. Why? The Prophet of Allah, he said, I'm leaving 2 things amongst you. 2 things. These are those 2 things that have no part in our life. We can say whatever we want, but if we really ask ourselves this question, we'll get the answer. I'm leaving 2 things. One is my kitab, one is my sunnah. How much of the kitab are we practicing, how much of the sunnah are we practicing? If we are practicing the kitab and the sunnah, this will not be our condition. Allah guarantees izzat, dignity, honor, grace for the people of the book, for the people who surrender themselves to Allah Rabbul Izzat. Allah guarantees success and izzah. But today, are we respected? Have we got dignity? Have we got honor? Where is our honor today? Whatever we read about the Sahaba, is that fiction? Was it made up? Or did people just compile this? We can read about the life of the Sahaba as much as we want. It will not benefit us until and unless we don't start practicing what they did. We don't start applying what they did, what they applied to their lives. The day we start applying what they applied to their lives, it will change the course of this ummah. Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala then said, this Quran is a firm rope of Allah Rabbul Izzat, and it is full of intellectual reminders. And he said, there is no doubt, there is no other source of hadayat and guidance but the book. In the presence of the book, the desires cannot be corrupted. The desires cannot be corrupted in the presence of the books. Why are our desires corrupted today? Why are our ambitions corrupted today? It is a sign the book is not in our life. He goes, the people cannot go astray. Why is the ummah gone astray today? Why are there 1,000 groups in the Muslim Ummah? Because we have left the book. And then he said the tongues cannot be disunited. In the presence of the book, the tongues cannot be disunited. And then he said, the people of knowledge cannot quench their thirst from the book. Reading this book over and over again, a person does not become tired. The miracles of this book will not end until the day of judgment. And that's why he said, when the Jinnat heard the Quran for the first time, they screamed, they shouted, they said, what is this book? Is this the Kalam of Allah Rabbul Izzat? It is calling people towards Hadayah and guidance. And then Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala said, it is incumbent to believe in the book. Whoever says anything that is mentioned in the book, it is an authority, it has to be accepted. Whoever practices the book, he will be rewarded. Whoever judges according to the book, it will be a just decision. And whoever guides towards the book, it is the correct guidance. Aw a'war, be careful, be diligent, hold the book firm. Khuz biquwwah. My dear respected brothers, I finish off on this note. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala said, this is the solution to all our problems. Today we complain too much. We are looking at the dunya too much. If we see problems in our life, if we see the ummah struggling and suffering, the problem has come from the heavens, the resolution will come from the heavens as well. The resolution for these problems will never come from this dunya, remember, because the problems have come from the heaven. The solution will come from there as well. What is the solution? Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala, he said, Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam, he said to Bani Israel, O Bani Israel, Allah Rabbul Izzat has ordered me to inform you to read the book. Read the book. Their book at that time was the Torah or whatever. And then he gave an example. He said the example of a person reading the book. It is a person or it is a nation in a strong fort. The enemies want to attack this fort and attack these people. They can come from whatever direction they want. But if these people are protected in this fort, meaning reading the book, they can come from whatever direction, they will never be successful. Whatever direction they come from, they will find the book protecting these people. They will find the book protecting these people. And eventually, the enemies will weave off. They will return. Allah Rabbul Izzat give you, me the tawfiq to implement and practice. Allah Rabbul Izzat give us the love of the Quran. Allah give us the ishq of the Quran. Allah give us the understanding of the Quran, the application of the Quran. And Allah Rabbul Izzat use us as ambassadors to promote this book. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.